Talking about the thumb and the actual significance of the thumb in palmistry. We don't usually think that we have to look at the thumb. When we think about palmistry, we think about the lines on the hand, but it's not just the lines that are significant. The reason we usually read palms is we think we might be able to foretell the future and all that sort of jazz. But it's more exciting than that. Palmistry is about learning about ourselves, discovering about our personality and how we can improve all of our little issues that we might have with ourselves. We might think, oh, I wish I was more this, wish I was more that, or you might be completely content with your life and you might just want to understand more about what makes you tick in general. But we also want to know about other people. I think it's so interesting that we literally want to judge people, not in a bad way, but we want to understand people. So to understand people immediately without waiting a long time to get to know the person. Say if you meet someone for the first time and if you see a immediate feature which can be on the thumb when they wave to you or when they give you the thumbs up or shake your hand, that can actually help you understand the person. It will help you how you can communicate with the person. It will give you the idea of, is this person really outgoing? Is he going to talk a lot or is he going to be quiet and shy? When I say he, I mean he or she, they. So it can give you the immediate impression so you know how you can communicate with that person. And I think when I very first started learning palmistry, I was so excited that I could, at a quick glance, just see what a person could be like from just a quick glance, and just to help me mainly to get along with the person, because most people want to get along with others. If you meet people, you want to be able to communicate on the same level, or at least understand where they're sort of coming from. So this picture I have here is slightly just talking about the actual single features of the thumb. But what I mainly want to talk about today is the angles of the thumb and sort of the shape of the thumb. But seeing as how I have this picture here immediately, which I didn't realize I had it there. So this picture is describing the tip of the thumb and the middle section of the thumb, and then the ball of the thumb as well. So the tip is called the will. So amount of willpower, energy, and self-control, they're shown by the length of the will section. Sometimes if that's a little short, the person may be struggling with their willpower. So they might have this big logic area where thoughtfulness and organizing skills are really strong. But the ability to put them into action, putting them into action means you need some balance on that thumb. A tiny tip on the thumb will mean that all that skill you have, all that logic, all that knowledge you have, you might not put it into action. You might keep it to yourself. So it's important to understand also that when the thumb is bendy like this, that can sort of disrupt the look of the length of it. So you might have to sort of visualize, okay, if this tip was straight, would it be longer? So that would, in this case, this thumb would have a longer will than it appears. So this person would have pretty good willpower. The fact that it is flexible, when the thumb is flexible, it represents a more flexible personality. Now, regarding the thumb ball, now that has different meanings all on its own. We call that the Mount of Venus, but in general, if that thumb ball is well developed, there's more energy, and if it's flat, it's just like a little bit more lackluster personality, I suppose. The bigger the personality, the bigger the Mount of Venus in general on the hand. So thanks for joining me. If you are watching this live, we are talking about the thumb. I'll be changing this picture and bringing up another one. Hopefully I'm going to be talking about the angles of the thumb, what they really mean, and how they help you immediately understand what a person is about. So without even knowing anything about palmistry, you can just use the thumb as an example to judge or analyze, or just to get to know someone immediately. So you shake hands, or you wave hi, or someone gives you the thumbs up, you know how you can get along with that person immediately. So let me change this picture, and if I can, do I even know what I'm doing? Haha. This happens when you go live streaming, that you don't really know how it's going to work out. Okay, I'm going to hide that one, and I'm going to hide that one, and I'm going to visualize that one, and I need to hide that one too. There you go. Winning. I got it. So talking about this wide angle first. So the angle of the thumb is whether it sits right down low or whether it sits up high, and how big is this angle in between. This photo here, I say the wide angle thumb depicts a generous, can you say that properly? Generous, open-minded person who is down to earth because the thumb is lower on the hand. So the lower things are to the bottom of the hand, the more down to earth the person is. So more down to earth, open-minded because the angle is open, adaptable, independent, someone who is self-confident with a love of adventure. If it's low set as well as having a wide angle, that gives even more practical, constructive, more so than intellectual. Doesn't mean they're not intelligent. In fact, they can be very intelligent. There's always redeeming features. But this particular feature, when it's set low, that they're hands-on, these people can use their hands, most likely in like the building industry or construction industry, just even a creative person who uses their hands in a creative way as well. So I didn't have other pictures to bring up for the narrow angle, but you can imagine if the thumb is naturally held in a narrow angle, like when someone shows you their hands, they're either being very shy and don't want to reveal anything about themselves, or it can literally mean that their strengths are in their intelligence. They're likely a specialist in some kind of a field. there could be a problem solver. So they're using their intellect a lot more. They enjoy communication and possibly are very cautious, though. Very cautious personality. They might not trust other people. So it's that insecurity that it's like the thumb is hiding itself. It's like, I'm going to keep close to everything and keep things to myself because I don't want to reveal or trust other people. Now, the other side of that is that they may actually be holding secrets. So someone who doesn't open up their fingers, they're holding things to themselves. So there might be secrets that they're keeping, especially when the thumb is close. If it's really tucked in, well, they might have like proper insecurities. They are literally scared, or they have like apathy, or just something about them makes them feel insecure. The other thing is they might not be very generous. So miserly is somebody who's not very giving, like not just financially, but in their general personality, not very giving. If it's high set, that can usually represent somebody with more of that intellect side. So in the medium set, which is medium, average angle, average set, so it's not sitting too low on the hand, not too high, but in the medium, that gives more of the practical, giving, neither miserly nor a pushover kind of a personality. Now, the flexibility of the thumb that I talked about before, the bendy looking thumb, that's the flexible thumb. So that shows someone who easily adapts to their circumstances. They'll be happiest just going along with the flow. They're open to ideas and more generous as well, but they can also maybe like spend their money easily as well. They can get sidetracked by taking on too many things, but overall they're flexible to change. So if they're your boss with a bendy thumb, they're more open to change and likely to, I suppose, be adjusting your workplace to cater for you, because they will bend over backwards, so to speak, just to help you. On the opposite end of the scale, if that thumb is really rigid and stiff, so that shows more of the rigid and stubborn personality. So these people will be more persistent and more determined, and once they have their mind made up, you probably struggle changing their mind. I suppose they have a really good skill for concentration. So whatever career or situation that person is in, with that straight kind of a rigid thumb, that they will be stable. It shows stability and reliability and responsibility. So having that rigid thumb has its good side. It has got the good side of all of those that I said, but the bad side is if somebody is, say, for instance, in a relationship with somebody with a rigid thumb, with somebody with a flexible thumb, those two personalities are going to clash. You have one person who is stable, reliable, and responsible mostly. Of course, there are qualities that we need to look at on the rest of the hand, which can alter the meaning. But somebody with a flexible thumb who is more giving and open, that flexible thumb person is always going to be dominated by the rigid thumb person. So they're not an even kind of union, I suppose you could say that. So ideally, excuse me, ideally you would have a couple who have similar thumbs in the flexibility side because of the clashing. Although two flexibles can clash because they're two alike, two rigid thumbs can clash because they're two alike as well. But like I said, there's other features that go into all of that in the whole palmistry perspective thing. So that is like a huge thing to learn about the thumb, and there's so much more. We've talked about the flexibility and the rigid. We talked about the narrow angle or the wide angle. We talked about the little tip of the thumb and whether it's a long tip or a small tip. So quickly, before I finish up, I'm going to talk about more about the shape and a little bit more about the tip. So we talked about the short tip, which means could be somewhat sort of lacking willpower. But what if it's really flat, like looking at it sideways? A flat tip can show someone who's actually quite psychologically keen. They have good insight. They might have the ability to motivate others, but at the same time, they might be a bit manipulative. They might be able to manipulate others as well. That can represent social, refined, gentle personality, but the flat tip also represents the energy, which can be lacking energy. Highly strung, nervous personality. On the opposite side, if it is very bulbous, the bulbous tip kind of goes the opposite of the flat one, obviously. It shows more energy, shows very passionate, obstinate, impulsive, sometimes, most of the time, unrefined. So the person with the bulbous fingertip is likely to speak their mind. It doesn't matter what words are coming out, they're just going, there's no filter. Obviously, again, comparing other features can be redeeming qualities for any of the others. But it shows someone who may be also withholding their energy. Like they have this aggressive, obstinate nature, but they can otherwise bring balance to it through other means, kind of thing, if that makes sense. Now, the only other thing that I will talk about is looking at the thumb from like the front view. I had a front view picture here somewhere. I'll see if I'll bring that up if I can. Get rid of that one. No, that's not it. That's the one. See if I can hide the other one. There it is. So front view or flat view. So if there's a waist on the second phalange, like if it goes to like skinny, it's called a wasted thumb, and that gives analytical, diplomatic, intellectual, tactful, pleasant, somewhat spiritual personality. But it can, in some instance, mean untrustworthy. So you have to look at the rest of the hand to see, like the headline especially, should be nice and clean. If the headline is messy, then that could bring some trust issues there. And if the top is very large, then that gives that irrational, more obstinate personality, like of the bulbous thumb. Now, when it's straight, so say if there's no waist on that, if it's looks nice and straight, like evenly balanced, straight thumb, that represents a more direct, truthful, someone you can trust, rational, logical kind of a nature. So a straight thumb is probably more so the ideal, but if it's thick at the base, then that can be that tactless, slightly crude, maybe insensitive kind of personality. So that was just a hint for you all about the thumb and how important it is in palmistry to look at the thumb. And I hope that you will come and join my channel. I would love to have you on board, my VIP members. I'm going to finish this video here, but I will be streaming to you live again very soon. So I hope you can join me. Nice to see you here, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye.